Okay, get this. Before the Big Science Workshop, building large language models was like a total VIP club.
Yeah,
Only a handful of organizations could even get in the door.
it's
They were
true.
the only ones with the resources to do it.
Yeah, you can almost imagine, like, trying to bake a cake,
Okay,
but the only ovens are locked away in a few, like, super heavily guarded kitchens.
interesting.
That's kind of what it was like for researchers trying to work with large language models
Oh, wow.
before Bloom came along.
So Bloom is like throwing those kitchen doors wide open,
Exactly.
sharing the recipe with the whole world.
That is a great way to put it.
Bloom is this massive open access language model
Right.
built by, what, hundreds of researchers?
Hundreds, yeah, from all over the world.
That's incredible.
It really is.
It's like they all got together and said, hey, let's make a Wikipedia for AI.
It is.
Let's make this technology available to everyone.
Yes.
So with hundreds of researchers involved,
Uh-huh.
I can only imagine the challenges they faced.
Oh, for sure.
Trying to pull off something this big.
Yeah, just the scale of it.
Yeah.
The sheer scale was one of the biggest hurdles, you know?
Right.
They needed a massive amount of data to train Bloom,
Uh-huh.
and they had to be really careful about where that data came from.
Okay.
It's not like some other models that just scraped whatever text they could find online.
Right, right.
The big science team was much more deliberate about it.
So they were like super librarians,
Exactly.
carefully selecting the best ingredients for this AI recipe.
Yes. They built this data set called ROOPS. And get this.
Okay.
It's a whopping 1.61 terabytes of text.
Wow.
That's like millions of books.
Did they really read through millions of books?
Not quite. They had
Okay.
some pretty cool tools to help them out.
Like what?
Well, they worked on native speakers
Oh, cool.
to make sure the data for each language was accurate and representative.
That makes sense.
They even built tools to pull text from specific websites
If
and then remove any personal information to protect people's privacy.
Smart.
Yeah, it was a massive undertaking.
That sounds like it.
But it was worth it because all that care and attention,
Yeah,
it really made a difference in the quality of the data.
I can see that.
Yeah.
You know, one of the main problems with models trained on less carefully curated data
Right.
is that they can pick up and amplify existing
It's
biases.
true.
But by being so meticulous with roots,
Mm-hmm.
the big science team was able to create a much more balanced
Yes.
and representative data set.
Much more.
So, okay, they had this massive, well-organized library of information.
Right.
How did they actually use it to build Bloom?
Ah, that's where things get even more interesting.
Okay, I listen.
They used roots to train Bloom, which is what we call a decoder-only transformer language model.
A decoder-only transformer.
Yeah.
Okay, break that down for me.
Okay, well, it's basically a really sophisticated text predictor.
Okay,
Think of it like when your phone suggests the next word as you type.
got it.
But Bloom does it on a much grander scale and in multiple languages.
Wow.
It can do all sorts of things, like translate languages, write different kinds of creative content,
Oh, wow.
and even answer your questions in a very informative way.
So it's like the ultimate autocomplete, but for, like, everything?
Exactly.
Sign me up.
Right.
So to get Bloom to work, I'm guessing there were some pretty complex architectural choices involved?
Oh, definitely.
Like what kind of choices?
Well, for example, they used something called alibi positional embeddings.
Alibi positional embeddings.
Yeah.
Sounds intense.
It's actually a very clever technique, and it helps stabilize the training process and improve performance.
And what do these alibi positional embeddings actually do?
Well, think of it this way.
Okay.
It's basically a way to tell the model where each word is in a sentence,
Oh, interesting.
which is really important for understanding context and meaning.
Right.
It's like giving each word a little address label,
Makes sense.
so the model knows exactly where it fits in.
So they built this powerful model with Bloom,
Uh-huh.
trained it on this massive, meticulously curated data set called Roots,
Yes,
and made some pretty clever architectural choices along the way.
we did.
So the big question is, did it all work?
It did. The results were incredible.
Let's hear about those results then.
All right, let's dive in. One of the most impressive things was how well Bloom did with mean translation,
Oh, really?
especially for languages that don't have a ton of data out there.
You mean like languages that aren't as widely spoken or
Exactly.
used online?
Yeah, think about languages with, rich literary traditions,
Okay.
but not a huge internet presence.
I see, I see.
Bloom actually outperformed some models that were specifically designed just for those languages.
Wow, so Bloom, this general purpose model,
Yeah,
it was better at translating some languages
in some cases, yes.
than models built for that one specific purpose.
It's pretty amazing.
That is amazing.
It suggests that Bloom learned something, like fundamental about the structure of language itself.
Wow.
Allowing it to generalize that knowledge
Yeah,
and apply it to these new situations.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
But you said it wasn't perfect.
Oh, of course not.
Were there any areas where Bloom struggled?
Well, for languages with very limited data,
Okay.
Bloom's performance wasn't quite as strong.
Makes sense.
It really highlights how important diverse data is,
Right.
even for a model as powerful as Bloom.
So even with, what was it, millions of books worth of data,
Millions, yeah.
there's still room for improvement.
Absolutely. There are so many languages and dialects out there.
True.
And we're constantly generating new information. It's an ongoing process.
Right. Always learning, always growing.
Exactly.
Okay, so back to the impressive stuff. You mentioned machine translation.
Yeah.
What else can Bloom do?
One really interesting thing they found was that Bloom could translate Galician,
Galicia, Vega.
which is a language that wasn't even included in the training data.
Wait, hold on. It learned to translate a language it had never even seen before?
It did.
How is that even possible?
It seems like Bloom was able to pick up on the patterns
Okay.
and similarities between the languages that were in the roots data set.
Uh-huh.
So since Galician is a Romance language...
Like Spanish, French?
Exactly. Bloom was able to kind of apply its knowledge of those languages
Interesting.
to make sense of Galician.
So it's like
Yeah.
learning to play piano
Uh-huh.
and then being able to figure out guitar.
Exactly.
Because you understand the shared musical concepts.
It's a great analogy, yeah.
That's pretty mind-blowing.
It is, and that ability to generalize beyond its training data,
Yeah.
that's one of the most exciting things about Bloom,
Right.
It suggests these models might be capable of way more than we realize right now.
What about things like code generation?
Yeah, so Bloom's code generation abilities,
Mm-hmm.
they were comparable to other similar-sized models
Okay.
that were trained on a mix of code and text.
So it can write code?
It can, yeah.
Maybe it can help me finally finish that app I've been working on.
Haha, certainly could help.
It's important to remember, though,
What's that?
that Bloom is a tool.
It is, yeah.
And like any tool,
Yeah,
it can be used for good or for, well,
right.
less than good purposes.
That's true.
It's exciting that Bloom is so powerful and versatile,
For sure.
but with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Absolutely. We have to think carefully about the ethical implications of these models
Yeah,
and make sure using them in a way that benefits everyone.
I agree. So Bloom is amazing,
Yeah.
but there are definitely some important questions to consider
Oh, yeah,
about its impact and how it's used.
for sure.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive so far.
It has.
We've learned so much about how Bloom was created
Yeah.
and what it can do.
It's amazing what they've accomplished.
It is.
For the average person out there,
Yeah?
why should they care about Bloom?
That's a great question.
I think Bloom represents a real turning point
Mm-hmm.
in the world of AI. For the
Fair.
first time, we have this powerful multilingual language model
Right?
that is open and accessible to everyone.
So it's like taking something that was once reserved for a select few
Yes,
and making it available to the entire world.
exactly.
That's huge.
This means researchers, developers, students, anyone who's interested in AI can experiment with Bloom
Wow.
and explore its potential. It's like opening up a whole universe of possibilities.
I love that. What are some of the potential benefits you're most excited about?
Well, imagine a world where language barriers are no longer an obstacle
Okay.
to communication and collaboration.
That would be incredible.
Yeah, a world where information is readily available in your native language, no matter where you are in the world.
Yeah.
Bloom could help make that a reality.
It could revolutionize so many things.
It really could.
From education and healthcare
Yeah.
to business and entertainment.
Absolutely. And we're really just scratching the surface of
Okay.
what's possible.
As more people get access to Bloom and start experimenting,
Right.
I can't wait to see what people come up with.
Me too. It's going to be exciting.
But before we get too carried away with all the good stuff,
Uh-huh, yeah.
we should probably talk about the potential risks, too.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Let's take a look at some of those potential downsides
Okay.
and what we can do to mitigate those risks.
Okay, so we've talked about all the amazing things Bloom can do, but let's be real for a second. What are some of the potential downsides we need to watch out for?
Well, one concern of any powerful tool, is the potential for misuse.
Right?
Bloom could be used to generate misleading or even harmful content like
Yeah.
fake news articles or propaganda.
That's a scary thought.
It is, yeah.
It's like giving someone a megaphone and just hoping they use it to share positive messages.
It's a valid concern, yeah.
Yeah.
We really need to think carefully about safeguards and ethical guidelines for using models like Bloom.
So it's not just about the technology itself.
Right.
It's about how we choose to use it.
Exactly.
We need to be responsible.
We do.
What about over-reliance on these models?
That's another potential risk, yeah.
Could that be a problem?
It could. We need to remember that Bloom is a tool,
Yeah,
not a replacement for human judgment and creativity.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
It's like using a calculator to do math. It's helpful,
Right.
but you still need to understand the underlying concepts.
Exactly. We don't want to become so dependent on these models that we lose our own critical thinking skills.
We need to find that balance
Yes.
between embracing the power of AI and preserving the value of human intelligence.
I think that's a great way to put it.
So what advice would you give to someone who's just starting to explore this world?
The world of large language models.
Yeah.
I'd say be curious, be critical, and be creative.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to experiment with these models and see what they can do.
Yeah.
But also take the time to really think about the implications of what you're creating. And how it might be used.
Be thoughtful about it.
Yes, be thoughtful.
So find that sweet spot between innovation and responsibility.
Exactly.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive into the world of Bloom.
It has to.
We've learned so much, from its humble beginnings to its mind-blowing potential.
It really is a fascinating story.
It is, and to our listener, thank you for joining us on this adventure.
Yes, thank you.
We hope you've learned something new today, and maybe even sparked your own curiosity about the future of AI.
Until next time.
Stay curious. 7022.